Welcome to the Beasts of the NFC East podcast. I'm your host, Sean Gnitzcavich, with my co-host, Jeremy Goode. The NFC Beasts are represented. The NFC East will be in the Super Bowl. Will it be the Commanders? Will it be the Eagles? I don't know. We're here to tell you who we think it'll be. Jeremy, I feel like I know who you think it's going to be, but Jeremy Goode, what is good?
Yeah, it's fitting with a podcast like this to have two teams in the championship game for the NFC, both coming out of the NFC East. Look at that. I mean, my goodness, that is something. There's some divine intervention. Something is there, which is awesome. We're both in red, which seems festive.
Yeah.
Just that's a nice little thing that wasn't, planned before. And it really wasn't. I'm not even being sarcastic.
No,
and you have the Commanders and Eagles representing the NFC in the championship game, and one will ultimately represent the conference in the Super Bowl. Pretty rare that that happens, I think. But I guess someone can check it. But you had three NFC North teams in the playoffs. They all lost their first game because it's a pretty fraud division. But we're not going to get into that.
We can get into it a little bit about the Lions.
We can get into it too, including Detroit. Although it won't get into it. Impressive win for Washington, absolutely, to go up to Detroit. You got to give it to them, and we'll get into them, of course, and give it to them big time. Detroit, bunch of frauds, starting from their head coach, and we'll get into it. But impressive for both teams, and now they're coming to Philadelphia on Sunday, so we'll see.
Yeah, and Jeremy, you know a little bit more because you are still in Philadelphia. I'm in Nashville, which is freezing right now. But is it another snow game? Because, God, listen, I hate the Eagles as a Giants fan, as you could probably see. But that snow game was fun to watch from start to finish. It helped that I won some parlays. Painful that they were riding on Saquon Barkley's overs. And I don't even know what's more painful. I told you about this, Jeremy, but I'll let the viewers know. What's more painful for me? It's tough. Seeing two NFC East rivals, a NFC East rival make it to the Super Bowl, it's guaranteed now, or the fact that I lost a 9-leg parlay, a $10 9-leg parlay to win $1,000 on half a yard at the end of the Ravens-Bills game. It's unreal. I don't know. They're both, it's just so much pain this weekend. So much pain. And
I don't know if it'll make you feel better.
Yeah.
I think FanDuel should give you like a few $100.
That was actually DraftKings. I go back and forth between the two.
Okay.
I think I don't know. I've emailed them before about stat corrections. And
yes.
They were like, stop using this offensive language. And I'm like, okay, sorry. And they gave me nothing. But an angry email and like, hey, we'll let you keep betting if you want to do that. And,
we're going to kick you off. But if you stop cursing, we'll let you. Yeah. That's unfortunate. I will say if you are trying to get locks, it seems like the Saquon props are money in terms of running, in terms of carries, in terms of touchdowns.
I don't know. The touchdowns were failing me towards the end of the regular
touchdowns are a little difficult to predict with the tush push, but some props to we'll win you some bets, and starting with Saquon, it's a good bet to go off of. But yeah, 9-leg parlay to be off by one rushing. That's insane.
Yeah,
that's
half a yard.
Half a yard
killed. And the thing is, the highest cash out they gave me was like $200. So it's like I was like, you know what? If it gets to 500, I'll take it.
Right.
And then if Mark Andrews just caught that 2-point conversion, this could have been a totally different story.
Over time, yeah.
But we'll regardless, this is about the NFC East, and there's a lot of the NFC East. It's a huge storyline. The Commanders, first time they're in an NFC Championship game since 1991. It's crazy to think that we started this podcast 2 years ago after the Giants come off of a playoff win, the Eagles come off of a Super Bowl loss, and I don't think any of us expected the Commanders to be potential one game away from the Super Bowl just 2 years later. And that's what happens when you draft a superstar like Jaden Daniels. That's why when we were doing all our mock drafts last offseason, which we'll have some this season, I was always dying to get Jaden Daniels on the Giants. That was never going to happen. no matter what Joe Shane's son thinks, guess what? It was never going to happen. The Raiders even tried to do it. That was never going to happen. And rightfully so, because the Commanders did a great job in sticking to their guns, drafting their guy, and they look like a team that's going to be sticking around for quite a bit, which I'm sure scares you as an Eagles fan. I'm sure you see this, and we'll get into the games right after this, but do you see this as your time now as the Eagles? You're so close before the Jaden Daniels Commanders experience becomes like a constant threat to your, division claims and so on and so forth.
It's a good question, Sean. I think that it is fair. I think that anytime you get this close, you always have to finish because you never know what's going to be around next year. You just if you get there, you gotta win it. It's something that I'm glad the team in 17 did. I wish 22 was able to finish it off, but they didn't. And then we've seen the last few years it's been iffy, kind of after the Super Bowl. With the year immediately after where they collapsed. It's not giving you're going to come back. I will say, and I try to preach this, I think Washington is in good hands going forward. I still need to see more. I need to see more consistency from Jaden Daniels, years-wise, not just the first year, because we've seen quarterbacks go off the first year. Teams don't know exactly how to play them. They adjust, and then they sort of become average, kind of. Or not even average. They're still good quarterbacks, but they're not as special, and they're not the second coming of Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. I'll give you an example. C.J. Stroud last year championed him. And I know I mentioned this. We championed him as the next quarterback. And I still think C.J. Stroud is a good quarterback. And I think he'll do well going forward. Did not have a great year this year. Team was just not inspiring either. I think Kyler Murray, we saw a little bit too early on in his career. He had success.
Yeah.
Not that the Cardinals were a great team, but Kyler Murray was good early on, and now we're sort of seeing still a good player, but not the dynamic athlete player, playmaking kind of quarterback that we thought he was. Jalen Hurts, we've seen it. When he had that great MVP year, 2022, MVP-like year, he then dropped off the next year. And then the year after that, this year, he's recovered, but isn't quite the passer that we think. So I just got to see consistency. So I think Washington, it is scary that they could be, this good going forward with Daniels. I think it helps. I think it helps that, smart, their team is pretty solid all the way around too. It definitely helps him that he has playmakers on offense, decent offensive line. Defense isn't amazing, but have some players a little bit around the field here and there who are good. So yeah, it's certainly a concern. The NFL changes like that too. It's the league where you can finish last and finish first the year after. So it's a concern. But I think that Washington has to assume. Let's say they lose on Sunday next year. It's they're going to have to be patient because let's say they go to the wild card round and lose next year. Technically, they did worse than the year before, but I think if you still get the play from the quarterback, they'll be fine going forward in the future, long-term wise. So, and to also toot their horn a little bit, this started with Washington getting guys like Peters as the GM.
GM, yeah.
And then getting an owner, or I guess the owner came first when Magic Johnson. I'm not going to mention Josh Harris because he's a fraud. But guys like Magic Johnson, who wins everywhere he goes, Dodgers, Lakers, now Washington. That helps. Yeah. Bringing Peters helps. Drafting Daniels, like you mentioned.
And drafting Mikey Sandersill and Jerzon Newton as well. I mean, I was talking about how some of their later picks, Ben Sinnott really hasn't. He's been a complete non-factor. Luke McCaffrey has been a complete non-factor. But then Cliff Kingsbury, who people hated, and I hated him on him. A lot of people hated on him in the beginning of the season, but I think he was slowly adding more and more for Jaden Daniels to use. Because that first, what was it, week 2 against the Giants or week 3 against the Giants, where Jaden Daniels had maybe 3 passes past the 5-yard line. It was a bunch of screens and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Field goal
And
game, yeah.
he seemed limited. Yeah, the field goal game with no punts, all that good stuff. But now, and even like you'll see from, if you look at the first game against the Eagles, which was like what, week 12, week 13,
Something
I think.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That game, Jaden Daniels was a completely different quarterback from what he was in week 17 when he ultimately beat you guys.
He was also a little banged up week 12. Although
still going off those ribs,
yeah. Yeah. So,
but he's grown, and Cliff Kingsbury has grown, and we've seen all these kind of like fringe pieces play really, like Tyler Biadasz has been a positive compared to like what, like the base level when they signed him as the center out of Dallas. And then you get Dante Fowler Jr., you get good play out of him. You, like we've talked about all year, like that's crazy. Dorrance Armstrong has been good. He's been a positive. Frankie Louvu obviously has been good. Bobby Wagner, old, guess what? Could still play, still playing at a high level. And Jeremy Chin even got a nice pick at the safety position. And then they shed guys like Emmanuel Forbes, who was a weakness. And they weren't like, okay, he was a former first round pick. Like, let's see what he has. No, they're like, we can win right now. He's a liability. Cut him. And then you get guys like Marshawn Lattimore, who still I feel like is not playing up to top Marshawn Lattimore. I know that he didn't play great against the Bucs. I don't know his exact stats against the Lions.
It's tough to be traded in season at his age
and
with an injury that he was still dealing with during the trade, which, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's before we get into the game, we'll look at these past games and we'll kind of put them all together. So, the first game, which everything that I was looking at, everybody who is predicting this game, they didn't think that the Commanders were going to get blown out, but everybody had the Lions winning this, no matter what. And even early in the game, I was watching this, and I remember my friends like, "Oh, there goes! I think this is going to be a blowout with the Lions," because it was 7-3 at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah,
explosive plays by the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs was running all over them. Marcus Mariota comes in for that 4th down conversion. But ultimately,
disaster.
The Commanders win 45-31. 45-31. And what did we say? The only way that these Commanders are going to win this game is if they out-Lions the Lions. And they outscore and they just have those explosive plays. And they did that in this game. And despite failing on that stupid Marcus Mariota 4th down conversion, they continued to go on 4th down. And right now I saw that they are 6 of 9 in the playoffs and converting on 4th down, which is huge, especially when you don't have a tush push. In the
playoffs.
In the playoffs. Yeah, wow. In the playoffs. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of 4th downs. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a lot of 4th downs converted, man. And that's and like I said, these aren't all tush pushes. These are some Jaden Daniels scrambles where on like plays that look like a fake run and he pulls it when it's like 4th and 3, which I believe he did against the Bucs. And he's also, I think, the first rookie to have 2 300+ yard games, like total yards, as a rookie in his first 2 playoff games.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, we saw Brock Purdy go to the NFC Championship against the Eagles in 2022, and then obviously screws up his elbow. That game was a joke, from the jump.
Yeah.
But this is a different rookie. This is Jaden Daniels, and I've heard it from other people, and I think I'd agree. I think Jaden Daniels has looked like the best quarterback in the playoffs thus far. Would you agree with me on that?
Sure. I guess statistically, yes. I guess overall performance, sure. I think that they have to do that to win games, unlike, I guess, the Bills, who can, even though they played a good Baltimore team, Josh Allen's stats weren't there, but the reason why the Bills win is because of Josh Allen. So I guess that's a fair thing to say, sure.
Yeah, and good things that we've seen in this Lions game that was kind of questionable the game prior was, I think there was 30 rushing yards was the most by one of their backs. And in this game, Brian Robinson was great out of the backfield. Austin Eckler was great out of the backfield. And this is the second straight game where De'Ami Brown is looking like a future star for the Commanders. And I think there was some stat too, like prior to prior to the playoffs, like he only had like more than 5 receptions once, and now he's gotten over 5 receptions the past 2 playoff games. 89 yards last week, 98 yards this week, and that crazy catch that like almost I think shifted, like that gave life. What was it, like a 40-yard reception with his eyes covered with the face mask?
Yep.
And still comes down with the ball. Yeah. This Commanders team is looking dangerous. Like what
They have
looking
Go
at
ahead.
this team and looking at their performances, like what is your biggest concern playing against your Eagles? And what are you the most impressed with?
Their depth is pretty impressive. I've mentioned this a little bit throughout the last month or so with Washington. They might not have stars, excluding McLaurin. McLaurin's awesome, but they have guys on offense who can play good football. And I don't say that like sarcastically. They just have different options. The running game, if you don't think Brian Robinson's a premier 3-down back, which I would say, sure, I agree. They have guys like Eckler. They have guys like
Chris Rodriguez.
What's that?
Chris Rodriguez?
Chris Rodriguez won. The Jerry McNichols, like all those guys can run the ball and change, the game with 4 different running options. Then you have guys like Olamide Zaccheaus, who is somehow having a good year. Dami Brown looks like a productive receiver now. McLaurin's awesome, like we said. Ertz looks like he's, had a resurrection. Just a new player as a tight end. And of course their quarterback in Daniels, who is a playmaker. Just their ability to get the most out of their team, which is okay, but doesn't stick out name wise, and just I think that's a concern.
Yeah, I think I would be. Yeah, and a lot of me, Olamide Zaccheaus, who didn't have any catches in the game against the Lions, but in that week 17, he had like 90 yards against you guys or something like that. Like he went off. That was the Zaccheaus game. Yeah.
Yes.
So even though he hasn't been featured yet, I feel like he can get featured any time. And then Jamison Crowder is still just kind of hanging around there.
Yeah, guys like Crowder. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the defense showing up, and Mikey Sandersill, we talked about how great he was when he was drafted, like the best nickel in the draft. I think he would have been a first-round pick if he wasn't just like a nickel. His ball skills. The first pick against Goff was like unreal. I mean, that like both of those, the interception, the first Mike Sandersill interception off Goff, and also the Quan Martin interception. When I was watching those plays, you see Goff just like fire with so much, like it seemed like he had an exact plan, and then bam, these guys come out of nowhere. Like the way that they're playing their coverage that Joe Witt Jr. has them doing, like they are prepared for these plays. And Quan Martin brings it back for a pick 6. That was sick. Although sick makes me sick to my stomach as a Giants fan, but it was still sick as a subjective football fan. Correct. It was sick. And then Jameson Williams gets the karma after humping the ground on his big touchdown run, and throws the second pick to Mikey Sandersill.
That
was dumb. That like they still had a chance to win the game there.
Yeah, you can't. I don't get it. I think you can't have your wide receiver throwing the ball in that situation. It's stupid. It's beyond stupid. And I think that Dan Campbell gets a pass for some reason. I don't know why. He seems untouchable. Every week he has stupid play calls like that. But Washington, like,
I think that's Ben Johnson. Right.
Yeah,
well,
but
probably a mix of his aggression.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. Yeah, but I think Campbell endorses that kind of stuff for sure. Washington watched film for against the Lions. They were prepared. It's a lot of people didn't have faith in the Lions overall. I think losing in the divisional round was a little early for most people. Some people had it, but Washington was prepared, and they took it. They went to Detroit and took it to them.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Detroit's defense injured. It's not just
But they've been
this
injured.
game.
And they've been injured. They've been injured all for the
All
last
season.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they won games with the injury. So it's like, I guess there's part of it where it's like they finally met their match, but it's like, you weren't saying this when you were winning all those games when you were injured.
Yeah.
Find another excuse. I hate that stuff.
No, and the thing is that the Lions did so great against Sam Darnold week 18 with all their blitzing.
Yep.
One thing, and so when you guys beat Jaden Daniels week, I don't know, I actually just want to look this up before I keep saying like week 12. It was week, I believe it was week 11. Week 11.
Week before, maybe a week and a half before Thanksgiving, since it was a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
Or no, I guess it would have been 2 weeks before. Something. I don't know.
I believe it was week 11.
Okay.
Yeah. But you guys were playing like your Vic Fangio, like typical zone, not blitzing. But then when you guys lost to the Commanders week 17, you guys were blitzing heavy, and Jaden Daniels was able to take advantage of that. And same with these Lions. These Lions were blitzing heavy, and they couldn't really do anything against Jaden Daniels. I mean, let's see. 0 sacks. 0 sacks, despite all the blitzing that they were Aaron Glenn was doing on defense.
Yeah.
And Jaden Daniels was picking them apart. And the other thing that I don't get about the Lions in this game is that Jahmyr Gibbs was running all over them. He only carried the ball 14 times. He was averaging 7.5 yards per carry, had 105 yards and 2 touchdowns, looked unstoppable. And I know that the game started kind of getting away from them with Washington, but Jahmyr Gibbs should have kept pounding the rock. Instead of doing a trick play with Jamison Williams, they're still in the game. If they just, just keep pounding the rock with Jahmyr Gibbs, mix in a little bit of Montgomery, who didn't look amazing coming back from injury, but still is a good change of pace. I think that could have changed the outcome for the Lions there.
You're not wrong about that, especially to do that instead of having Jamison Williams throw the football just casually 20 yards down the field. I guess they were shook because they were down 10 points in the second quarter and were often down 10 points second into the third. And they haven't been there that much this year. And they were just like, well, we got to come back. You got to abandon the run game and do it through your arm. Problem is, your arm is Jared Goff, and he just is not that good of a quarterback. The Lions and the Eagles are similar, but I think the Lions are a little more extreme. They have dumbed down their offense very specifically. They don't want Goff to throw because he's going to throw picks, so they're going to limit his arms, use Gibbs, use Montgomery, split the carries more or less, have them be the primary use of offense, and then sprinkle in the Ben Johnson offense where they have confidence that they can get guys open downfield and Goff can hit them without turning it over. And it's worked all year. They've done a good job. But in terms of playing a team like Washington, where you're down early in 2 scores, it's easy to see how they weren't able to win the game based off of having to rely on Jared Goff's arm.
Yeah, no, I mean, and Jared Goff has been great throughout the season. I think you're talking a lot of crap about Jared Goff, dude. I like Jared Goff. I think he collapsed just like Sam Darnold collapsed. But
it depends on what kind of standard you want to put these guys on. Yeah, it's harsh, but it's like, if you're the 1 seed, you get the bye and you're playing good football and you're sort of a limited quarterback, but that's okay. At least the system helps you a lot. You still got to go out there and win games, and it just seems like I think everybody thinks Goff is a talented quarterback, but what's the difference? He's the first overall pick, and nobody's ever considered him to be an elite quarterback. And how come? It's because of games like this, I think. And it's just like, I'm not a fan of the Lions, but I think if I'm the Lions, I'm disappointed because at a time where he really needed to rise to the occasion, he didn't. And he did in the worst way. I mean, we've seen him throw picks. We've seen him turn the ball over this year against the Texans where they turned over 4 or 5 times and they still somehow won the game. But
Yeah.
it's disappointing for a Lions team that had 15 wins. I don't know how, but they had 15 wins and were the number one seed and controlled their destiny in the playoffs up until the Super Bowl and got smacked by Washington because
Yeah, it's sad.
it
It's
didn't seem
sad.
like they prepared either.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that bye week doesn't really help, and I think,
Yeah,
I mean, like Amon-Ra, he had the production that he needed. Jameson Williams had that sick run to the house, like we talked about, but other than that, he only had one reception for 19 yards.
right.
Like, and Jameson Williams is kind of, especially when you are down, instead of having Jameson Williams throw a Hail Mary, how about you throw him a Hail Mary? Like Jameson
Yeah,
Williams
there's
is
a wild
electric,
idea.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just I don't know. But like we're talking shit about the Lions, but really we should be talking praise about the Commanders, like which I think we have a good amount. But yeah, they have stepped up and they look good. And like I said, the run, like the Lions' run defense wasn't the same, but they were able to be effective on the ground with their backs and out of the backfield with their backs. I mean, like Austin Eckler finished with almost 100 yards, from scrimmage as a supplementary piece. Like, I think these are going to be big things for the Commanders, especially if they're going to beat these Eagles. Which before I feel like I really want to just get to the matchup. But is there anything you want to talk about, like the Lions in the playoff, or not the Lions, the Commanders in the playoffs, this game before we get to the Eagles game, so we can just kind of get to the real.
I don't think so. I mean, it is an impressive win. It is an impressive win by Washington for sure. I guess I'm not. I don't want to undermine Washington what they did. I can see Detroit losing this game. That wasn't as much as the surprise. It was just how Washington smacked them, because Washington's offense wasn't in terms of scoring, wasn't they weren't putting up 40 for a lot of their games, And
I mean, they've been putting up 30 a lot towards the end, though.
But 45?
45, no, that's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, they put up 42 against the Titans, but that's
that's a little different.
40 against the Panthers, yeah,
and
40 against the Cardinals, but yeah, the Lions. That's especially the one seed in the playoffs. I mean,
I didn't see that, so I'll give them. I'll give them that for sure.
Yeah, they had 3 games of over 40 points, but they're high scoring, and a lot of 36 against the Eagles, and then 30 against the Falcons. I mean, they were putting up some numbers for sure.
Yeah. I didn't think they were going to put up 45 against Detroit.
No. Do you think they're going to put up 45 against the Eagles?
I do not.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Eagles. A 6-0 game coming down to the wire.
Yes.
Jalen Carter saves your season with a 6 sack, because it was going to be over because Jake Elliott can't kick a field goal. I don't care if it's snowing or not. His field goal troubles have been kind of consistent throughout this year. But you guys ultimately hold on with that Jalen Carter sack, beat the Rams 28-22. Jeremy, tell me about your thoughts about this game. I mean, just go off.
Well, the Eagles played it's very weird because they played a pretty good game overall. They made a lot of plays on offense, especially on defense. They made so many turnovers, so many sacks, a few tip balls at the line of scrimmage that led to 4th down. They played well, and they went up 13 with 4.5 minutes left. Unfortunately, they made it closer than they should have, because that's just who they are. But when push came to shove, you have guys like Jalen Carter, who, like you said, Sean, saved the season, made the play of the game, and big-time sack that really threw the Rams out of order for their 4th down play. Stafford essentially throws it away even though Puka Nacua was the target. And that's the game. Weather had an impact for sure. Positives and negatives. Negatives being the Eagles just didn't have any sense of how to throw the ball. But, of course, like I said, the biggest positive of the offseason, there were so many, but he wears the number 26, and he's a special cat. You look at guys like Saquon Barkley, and it's like I don't know what I did as a fan to deserve him,
You
but
didn't
I'm
do
certain.
anything, man. You didn't do it. You don't deserve him. You don't deserve him. And that stupid Eagles fan, the day that we drafted him, and I'm in the student center, and I'm so stoked. I'm like, yes, Saquon Barkley. And he goes, yeah, dude, I hope he tears his ACL. Guess what, man? Karma's coming, okay? Karma's coming.
Hopefully not this season.
I don't really want. I don't want. He's such a good. I mean, even Daniel Jones. That's really the storyline of the game. Daniel Jones and Sterling Shepard was in Saquon's box. Caitlin Clark and Taylor Swift is in Travis Kelce's box. No, Daniel Jones.
Give me Daniel Jones and Sterling Shepard. That's my. Yeah. I mean, it says a lot about the teammate for sure. I mean, he has so many. He has so many buddies still in New York, and it's. I'm glad that that it doesn't seem like that was interrupted because of Saquon leaving for another team, which is good because obviously it's a business at the end of the day. And I think his teammates in New York realized that it was best for everyone. But alas,
I do want to say, just piggyback on that one.
Yes.
Tyrone Tracy, when he was drafted, Saquon reached out to him and wanted to be his mentor. He's super tight with Saquon. He just reposted Saquon the other day. And he also just reposted Saquon Barkley making less money than Gabe Davis per year is unreal, which it is. It is. Yeah. The fact that the Jaguars are I know you have Travis Etienne, whatever, but they're you know what? Gabe Davis, $13 million a year is and the thing is I hear these Giants fans who are yeah, it was dumb. I'm going to talking Giants who I love, and I think they do one of the best jobs. They keep talking about how stupid it was if we were to bring Saquon back. Saquon wouldn't have had the season he had with the Eagles with the Giants. But they also are saying but bringing back Darius Slayton on $10 million a year. Well, guess what? Saquon is only $3 more a year, $3 more million a year, and I think he's worth more to your franchise. Running backs are worth $15 million. If you think a wide receiver 3 is worth $15 million, I think it's so stupid, and I think the league is going to change moving forward. But
it's interesting to see how it would. I think it's silly too when even if you're a bad team and you have a superstar like Saquon, figure out how to make the team good around Saquon. I'm glad the Giants didn't because ultimately he's in Philadelphia, but it's easy. I guess, obviously we're fans of our own team and we want to defend them even at the worst. And I totally get that. But it's if you just built the team around Saquon, you'd probably be in a different situation. And obviously we've gone over what the Giants have done over the years that haven't been Saquon friendly. We won't go back into that. It's just if it makes you feel good to say it wouldn't have mattered because we still would be bad. Okay. But you could also be proactive and say, well, we could have done both. We could have paid Saquon and we could have put a good team around him. The Eagles are a prime example of that. I think you're right, Sean. I think that the running back situation is going to change financially in terms of very good running backs. We saw Josh Jacobs have a great year with the Packers. We saw Derrick Henry have a great year with Baltimore. Of course, Saquon Barkley had a historic year in Philadelphia. Yeah, I think that they'll definitely go more conservative on receivers. But and just watching him go for 205 on the ground against the Rams, he had this year against the Rams 4 touchdowns,
500 scrimmage
yards on the ground, 550 combined. Crazy. It's funny too because the Rams, they have a good defensive line. They've guys like Kobe Turner, Jared Verst, Braden Fisk, Hoyt, and who's the guy I'm missing?
Byron Young.
And Byron Young, yes.
Yeah.
The problem is with those guys they're very fast and they'll get to the backfield, and it's great to have going forward, all young. Yeah. They probably need to beef up a little bit against the run to get some run stoppers. It stinks because it's you don't want to replace any of those guys, but if you're going up against a talented offensive line like the Eagles and a running back like Saquon, I don't know how you stop that with what the Rams have. Again, great defensive line, just not
Yeah.
anywhere close to big enough. Maybe they figure something out, try to change some things. But yeah,
Neville Gallimore is a big boy though, and he had a nice safety.
yes,
That was a
yeah,
nice safety, dude. That
a
was
sack
very
that
nice. I was
Jalen.
so happy, dude. I thought that was the Rams game after that play. I thought that
Well,
was it.
that kind of play is worse than a turnover. You
Yeah.
lose points, or the other team gains points, and they get the ball back. So that was bad. Jalen tried to stiff arm the guy in the end zone instead of throwing it away on a guy who was that's insane on his back foot.
Yeah.
I can't believe I saw that.
Jalen Hurts. We can. I don't know. Do you want to talk about? Well, Saquon Barkley getting that sick run.
Yes.
And right in front of Jared Verse chased him down. That must
Love
have been
that.
great. How good did that feel?
Oh, it was great. It was
Yeah.
it's great to see that. It's great. We all hear the noise. Athletes do too, not just the Eagles, every team. It's no secret. They hear the stuff and they'll remember it. In terms of Jalen Hurts, this game, not great. He didn't turn it over. Like the the key to this offense, it stinks because they could be so much more. This is Eagles essential. This is their road to victory essentially. Have the run game run it 60% of the time, and have Jalen Hurts not turn the ball over. And it's kind of a very thin needle way to run a team in terms of margin of error. It's worked, but my goodness, it's tough. So Hurts did enough to win for sure. I wish he would. I wish there was a media. I wish there was something between where it's like more throwing, a little more risk, but still being conservative as a passer. I don't know. It's been tough. It's been like this all year. The defense is so strong where realistically they can win a Super Bowl this way. Will they? I don't know. We'll have to see. But it really seems like realistically they can win a Super Bowl the way they do, the way their offense is, it just relying on their defense to play great football too and playing number one defense football as well. It's not the sexiest way to win. It's definitely the most, bizarre way, and I think a hard way. They certainly can win it this way, but it'll be difficult. 2 games for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I'll tell you what, dude. Jalen Hurts is by far and away the worst quarterback remaining in the playoffs. I think.
Let's see.
The way that he's played this season.
Mahomes, Allen,
Josh Allen,
yeah,
Daniels. I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he had what 65 passing yards in the first half. Was that or 69?
Yes.
It was in the 60s.
39 the week before in the first half.
Yeah, I mean he had that awesome 40-yard touchdown run, but then he kind of got hobbled. So I don't even know how healthy. I did see. I mean, him and Quinion Mitchell should both be playing against the Commanders in this upcoming week.
That was great to see.
Yeah,
but we don't know about. But to your point, we don't know about Jalen's mobility. And if you take away his mobility, that hurts the team a lot because now teams know the reason why Jalen Hurts is such a good player. It's because how he can kill you in different. Like you have to prepare for him to take off. You have to prepare for Saquon to take off, and then you also have to prepare for Jalen to like dice up a team with his arm. Not a great throwing quarterback, but it's good enough where like he can win games with his arm too, here and there. And it's hard to prepare for that. So if you take away his running ability, it becomes a little easier. But it's I guess he is quote unquote the worst quarterback in remaining in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's better than what we have, but yeah. I mean it's not. I just don't like, dude. Your defense is firing on all cylinders, and getting Quinion Mitchell back for next week is going to be huge. I mean, and dude, that Jalix Hunt sack too. I was like, damn,
that was nice,
dude. By the way, what an ugly number! Wasn't he like a 3rd-round pick for you guys? And he gets 58. That's an ugly number for an edge rusher, dude.
It's an interesting one. We've had Trent Cole was 58, so that there's and he was a great edge rusher. So, but yeah, maybe something in the 90s for sure. It's funny too with Jalen Hunt because no one thought he was going to play this year because he was so raw coming out of Texas Christian, Texas or Houston Baptist, Houston. I
Yeah.
don't even know if they changed names. His
Yeah.
freshman year at Cornell, he was a safety. So
Yeah.
it's nice that he's playing. I think that the Eagles have done this a lot too, where they redshirt guys who might not be completely ready, but I still think they should get snaps. Guys like N'Kobe Dean, rookie year, didn't get many snaps Super Bowl year. I thought he would have
Yeah.
benefited from some. Last year, Nolan Smith kind of had a redshirt year. He wasn't getting many snaps. I thought he could have played more as a rookie. And Jalen Sutton would have been another example, but probably would have been more worthy just because of how raw he is. And he's playing. He has to play. And he's played decently so far as a rookie. I mean, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I liked him. I didn't think he was going to be a third round pick, but
Yeah.
which he was, right? I'm not wrong there, am I? I thought he
Third
was a
round
third
pick.
round pick.
Nope.
Yeah, third round. Yeah, crazy. Yeah,
I
Nolan
think
Smith.
towards
I'll
the
tell
end of
you
the
what,
third.
dude. Isaiah Oren Burks. I want to talk about depth because you guys were talking
Yes.
about the Commanders' depth. Oren Burks played really, really well in this game.
He
I
did.
think, especially
He did.
replacing N'Kobe Dean, who he wasn't calling the plays though, right? Didn't they? Did that move to Zach
No, they
Bond?
gave. That's a good point. They gave the green dot to Zach Bond. Yeah.
Yeah, it was also great.
Yeah.
Great. He got the fumble recovery on Kyron Williams, right? And that was, I believe he did, right? Yeah.
I know Isaiah Rodgers picked up one.
Because that was a big thing. That Kyron Williams fumbled in the previous matchup, and
Yes, he did.
Again. Yeah.
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, great linebacker play. And then Isaiah Rodgers, he got picked on by Demarcus Robinson, where he yanked that ball out of his hands. But other than that, I thought that Isaiah Rodgers played decently well.
Especially coming off the bench, I thought he was picked apart a little bit here and there. He also made plays too, which is important. Like it was like a balanced game, good and bad, but like you need him to make plays in those situations, and he did. I even thought the one that looked like a pick. It sort of seemed like Demarcus Robinson came back for the ball, and once he did that, he easily it looks like it's in Rodgers' hand, but I didn't really think that was like as bad of a missed interception. It seemed tough to actually.
I mean, Demarcus Robinson is like double his size too.
It looked like he just had the ball. Like when he came back, he knew he was going to have the ball. Now there are other times. I mean, Cooper DeGene dropped an interception. I think who else? Someone else dropped an interception, potential ball. Can't have that.
Maybe CJ GJ.
Maybe, yeah, he did one. He's done that a few times. Got to get turnovers. Got to turn the ball over when you can. This team is the best at dropping interceptions, so got to figure that out. But I'd give Isaiah Rodgers a pass on that deepish ball. I thought it was just unfortunate how Robinson came back and sort of was just able to get there a little sooner than Rodgers. But again, coming off the bench, because Quinyon Mitchell was out after the first series of the game.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Mitchell's been playing great football. It's tough to replace. And I thought Rodgers, like you said, good job. Yeah.
I will say too, I mean, your O-line didn't do the best holding up against the pass rush, the aggressive pass rush of the Rams. I mean, Jared Verse, he had those big thumbs down, 2 sacks. Kobe Turner got a nice sack. Neville Gallimore, like we said, got that the safety like that. I mean, I think that the Rams front is by far more talented than the Commanders, but Dante Fowler has had a great year. I think Dorrance Armstrong has been playing really well. Frankie Louvu is a great blitzing backer. Are you a little bit concerned with your O-line has always been a strength, but I mean, you guys were a little bit weaker in that matchup.
I thought it's hard. There were some plays where I thought the O-line wasn't great, and then I thought that most of the times that Jalen was sacked was on him. I thought that he had a lot of time and he just wasn't throwing the football. There are also times where you don't have to make a play when you see a guy coming in your face. You just have to throw the ball away. And for some reason, I don't know why it isn't really clicking with Jalen. On the safety play, Goddard was open. There was also a player who he could have thrown the ball away to in the ground, who would have been an eligible receiver. I guess it wasn't the best game from the offensive line, but it just seems like another week of Jalen just holding on to the ball too long. And it's hard because when that happens, he's not turning it over, but sacks aren't good and they're drive killers in ways they really hurt you. So you got
especially when he's not being able to throw the ball. Like a couple of sacks, and like with him, kind of being limited in the passing game. We'll see if that's just going to change. Maybe they just wanted to rely on Saquon's legs until they couldn't any longer. Which I think. I mean, let's be real. Like Saquon, and we can get to that matchup, whenever you're ready. But yeah, I think. I don't know. Jalen Hurts is by far your biggest question mark going forward. Not just if you guys beat the Commanders, but then if you have to keep up with more high scoring offenses that can also run the ball with, well, I wouldn't say that the Chiefs have kind of been struggling to run the ball this playoffs, but
yeah, I mean, it's a good point. It really all comes down to every game essentially comes down to Jalen Hurts. That's not a surprise, really. It always comes down to the quarterback essentially for every team. But for this team, it comes down to Hurts. And fortunately, Saquon Barkley has really masked a lot of the issues, which is awesome. But in terms of Hurts, I guess the biggest difference in the Green Bay game, Jordan Love turning the ball over, Jalen Hurts not turning it over. In the Rams game, Rams coughing up the ball, Eagles not turning it over. Eagles are 32-2 when they win the turnover battle with Nick Sirianni.
Good.
There's something to it. They it works when they win the battle, when they don't turn the ball over in general too. That's just what has to happen. And Hurts sort of fumbled it at midfield out of field goal range once. Fortunately, Kenny Gainwell jumped on the ball, but that absolutely could have been a disaster. So thin margins, but he's doing enough.
Dallas Goedert, though, I'll just say the past 2 weeks I feel like has been good. Just coming back and just only four receptions the past 3 games and right around that 50-yard mark, but like has been getting back into the mix. He had that Gronk-like run 2 weeks ago. I just remember Brady, like there can't be a good tight end play without him having to bring up Gronk. I mean, I cannot wait for him to announce the Super Bowl. It's going to be sick, dude.
Goddard's been hurt a lot of the year. Goddard's been hurt a lot of his career. He's a big difference on this team. Not maybe statistically, numbers wise, nothing too overwhelming, but he is. I mean, he's been a blanket. It took a while for I think Jalen to trust Goddard, which is a little weird, but he trusts him now, and he's a blanket over the middle a lot of times and moving the chains too. So that's a good note. Yeah, he's been productive and he's helped, and it makes the offense more versatile, better, etc. So it's been great to have him back.
Yeah, and then obviously AJ Brown still reading his book, only 15 yards. So he has 20 yards all playoffs right now?
Something like that. 3
catches of 20 yards or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean that could and probably should change. Let's just get into what we really want to talk about. The NFC Beast Showdown for the best of the NFC East and the best of the NFC. Who's going to the Super Bowl? This is crazy. This is so crazy. And if you're wondering, a Giants fan, who do I want to win? It's the Commanders. It's the Commanders. Like, you could make the argument, but like, didn't you want Jaden Daniels? Oh no, like now you're definitely in the bottom barrel. Like the Commanders was always like, hey, at least like we're not as bad as the Commanders. Guess what? We are now. They swept us this year. We're worse than the Commanders. I don't know. I think the pain of Saquon and the Eagles and just, getting physically beaten up by Eagles fan at that game years back, living in Philadelphia, having a lot of Philadelphia friends on my Instagram story, just seeing them post about the birds. They're all stoked. I want to see some sad Birds fans on my Instagram reels coming after next week. Which that's pathetic, but guess what? I'm a Giants fan. We are in a very pathetic place right now. Yeah, big matchup, Jeremy. I spoiled the spread for myself. I had a guess and I was pretty close to it. Have you seen the spread already?
I think I did. I think it's Eagles 4.5.
Oh,
Unless
I saw it was.
moved.
I said it was Eagles -6.
It's definitely.
Let me double check. Might have changed. But yeah, I was gonna guess it was like 5.5, like Eagles -5.5, which I like. I mean, the past two games they've played each other twice this season. Both have been 1-score games.
Yep.
Although the Commanders lost by 8 in the first one, and then they won by what?
3? And the Commanders kind of would have lost by 16 in the first one if they didn't have like a garbage time touchdown.
Yeah, that's fair. That is true.
Alas.
That is true. It is. Yeah, it is -6.
Oh wow.
Over under. Both over unders for the Bills and Chiefs and for the Commanders Eagles is at 47.5, and I'll tell you what, I think I pound the over for both those games.
Yeah, it's hard to say because the Eagles defense comes. I mean, the Eagles defense though. I don't know.
The thing is, I think that the Commanders offense has been more high powered than the Rams offense, and the Rams are still able to put up 22.
True, but.
And I think that the Eagles offense, like the Commanders defense has been feisty and they've been good. I think that the Eagles offense are going to exploit the Commanders. I mean, think about it. The last game, and that was with Kenny Pickett too, and it was still a 68-point game, 35-33, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that's
I mean, the Rams had 15 points with 3 minutes left in the game, and then they score. So, like, there's there's context to this. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
It's an interesting game. It's there's a lot of you've two games where they've played each other already this year.
Yeah. One of the big things, because I think we've talked about this, kind of alluded to it this whole time. Like Saquon Barkley has been one of the driving forces. Jalen Hurts has had under 180 passing yards in like the first two playoff games. Saquon Barkley has been the motor driving you guys, which, by the way, we didn't even talk about that sick run where he says to Jalen, "Watch this, I got this."
Yes.
And he takes it to the house.
Yes.
That was
I love that.
Sweet. That was
sweet. Bang his
Saquon.
helmet. I don't even know what the bang the helmet means, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love.
Yeah, you should be, dude. Good for you. Enjoy it.
I will.
I was reminded from my friends, because when Saquon was still on the Giants, I had that sick action figure, which I've disfigured. Don't know where it is. But I would always have everybody kiss it. And they're like, "Remember what you used to have everybody kiss the Saquon action figure?" I was like, "Yeah." Now I should light it on fire every time he touches the ball. I don't know. It's sickening. It's sickening. And I think some Giants fans are like, "Yeah, I don't really like." I think every Giants fan, no matter if they admit it or not, if you're a true Giants fan and you stuck through it with it, stuck with the team through the shit, and Saquon was our only shining hope. Now seeing him shine for the freaking Eagles kills.
It does kind of suck for the Giants fans because I'm sure a lot of them would really root for Saquon and for Saquon
any other team
for a Super Bowl exactly. Yeah. So it really is unfortunate. And then you look bitter, but it's no, I just really don't like the Eagles. And tough situation. Anyone but the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You know what? Gettleman was right. He drafted a gold jacket guy. It's just that he's going to be a gold jacket guy, probably wearing Eagles green.
Possibly.
Which hey, I do want to say Saquon, the first two matchups against the Commanders, I think went for 131 and 142. I don't know. I have the matchup here. 146 and then he went for 150. So yeah, and I think His over-under is set at 131.5 right now for rushing yards alone.
Wow. Yeah, the second game at Washington, he had a huge run in the first quarter. I think finished with like 108 after the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then they stacked the box because Kenny Pickett was in the game, so it was a little difficult. But yeah, 131 and a half or whatever over under for on the ground is crazy. I mean,
that is crazy, dude.
But it's like to look at it, it's like, I don't know, maybe it should be higher. It's just wild.
I feel like that has to. Like, I think that the Commanders are going to be. They're gonna do everything they can to force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball because he hasn't been the past 2 games in the playoffs. Like I think they'll stack the box once again and just
I mean, it certainly makes sense to based off of Saquon Barkley's skills and abilities. I agree with that. It's just very hard if you do stack the box. Hurts is still a good quarterback where and this team is still talented with the offensive line holding the block and then Hurts being able to get it to AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. It's
Dotson revenge game.
Maybe Jahan Dotson too, a touchdown against Green Bay in the playoffs. It's tough. If you do stack the box when all those guys are out there, it's different than when Kenny Pickett is the quarterback. So we'll see what they do. It's a tough situation because even though the passing game hasn't really clicked, I think that if you stack the box, they should still have a good game throwing the ball because there's just not many coverage guys, and the secondary for Washington to begin with isn't too special. So,
and I'll tell you what, Kellen Moore knows Dan Quinn all too well. I mean, they overlapped in Dallas.
Yes.
And obviously they've already played each other twice this year.
Mm-hmm.
And AJ Brown was very productive with Kenny Pickett. I know because
he was
against him in fantasy that week. And I had Jalen Hurts who went out, which would double suck.
The one thing that Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee have done, they know their bread and butter, and they said, "Where's 11? I'm going to throw him the ball." So, yeah, Jalen could do the same thing. I assume it's not going to snow. It doesn't look like it's going to snow on Sunday, so it should be easier for the pass game to work things out. I think a few.
What is the weather? I'm curious, just because I feel like it does totally affect. Do you know? Do you have it up on your phone? Yeah,
I do. I'll tell you what. It's going to be cold.
I was assuming that. Yeah.
We are looking.
Meanwhile, I will say this fun little stat too, because if you can't tell, I'm definitely not butthurt about Saquon. I guess he is currently the 18th all-time in playoff rushing yards right now.
Okay.
And so we played 2 games for the Giants in the playoffs.
I guess those 2 games for the
And
Giants.
now 2 games for the Eagles in the playoffs. But 18th all-time after that?
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because, apparently Devontae Smith's 40 yards away or something from having the most receiving yards in the Eagles history for the playoffs. And the Eagles have had rich histories of playoff football. So just, they've also had some really bad years in the 70s and 80s.
T.O.? Is T.O. the...
T.O., I guess, is the leader, but he only played a year. He only played... Well, no, not T.O., because the playoffs he was hurt. He still had the broken leg, so I think Chad Lewis, the tight end, is the leader. It's interesting though. I guess how players come and go and might not stay as long as you thought. So for Sunday, we are looking at cloudy, high of 38, low of 25.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not going to be a freezing. Not going to be a freezing cold game.
I guess. I assume it's going to be colder than that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I lied.
What?
Oh, it's 6 a.m. It's going to be 14 degrees.
Okay. Yeah, well, the game's getting played at what? Is it 2 o'clock your time?
3 p.m. 3 p.m.
3 p.m. your time, 2 o'clock my time.
Yes.
Yeah, but let's be real here. We were talking a lot about the Eagles. I think Commanders here. What we said about the Lions, how to beat the Lions is to keep it up with the points, and I think their game plan against the Lions should be this exact same game plan. Like get it done on the ground,
Against
no
the Eagles,
turnovers
you mean?
against the Eagles. Same exact game plan that they had against the Lions. Bring it back. Like put up points, as many points as possible. Go for it on those fourth downs. Don't put in Marcus Mariota at all. I still can't get over that. But yeah, I think like keep that balanced look with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler out of the backfield, and as long as Terry McLaurin could do what he's doing and keep up and have like at least 60, 70-yard game, and then you have the rotation of either De'Ami Brown or Alameda Zaccheaus filling in, and then Zach Ertz too, like just a healthy dose of all of that. And then I think you gotta stuff the box. You gotta stuff the box, and you gotta be creative on defense, but also don't get too creative and too fancy. Like I think that if there's a way to stuff the box and bracket double team AJ Brown, make them try to go at you with just Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, I think that you could. You got a shot, Commanders, and I'm rooting for you. So
I agree that they have to be aggressive. The problem is they're going against statistically the best defense in the NFL. So it's just going to be tough for them with that aspect. I think they have to control the clock. Ultimately, that'll help, and that could give them an ability to come close to winning a game. Yeah, it's they got to be aggressive. They have to score, of course, and they have to score a good bit, I would think.
I mean, you think like what? Like I would say, just knowing what the Eagles are capable, I feel like the Commanders at least have to put up 27 points to have a chance at winning this game.
I would say so.
I think, and I'll tell you what the Eagles need to do too is make their freaking field goals. Maybe Jake Elliott could take some of Zane Gonzalez's ticks.
The field goals in the playoffs have been good so far. He's been clutch.
The extra points. Yeah.
It's the extra points that somehow gets in his head.
Which is so weird, dude.
Yeah, I don't get it. In some ways, I've always thought that kickers probably are pissed after they move back the extra point because it's legitimately, it could be a field goal essentially, and you're only getting 1 point for it. So the mental aspect, I've always thought that might bother kickers, but it's still an extra point. Make your extra points. My goodness. Would have been a different game. But again, it's tough because you got to give credit to Elliott because there were some awful snaps on those field goal attempts. There was a 44-yarder or whatever in that weather, and he made it. So it's like it's odd. He helps, but he hurts. It's weird.
Yeah, and I think Jaden Daniels needs to keep this up because Jaden Daniels is the reason why the Commanders are here where they are right now. And I think that he needs to keep his poise. I don't think no moment has looked too big for him yet. I don't think this moment will either. And I think he needs to keep doing what he's doing, a healthy balance of scrambling. And I think I talked about this before, but when the Commanders, I keep saying week 17, but I think it was actually week 16. Wasn't it? Yeah, week 16.
Mm-hmm.
When they
yes, week 16
beat the Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles were blitzing. Like Vic Fangio was blitzing for some reason, and that's how they were able to take advantage. I think that the Eagles go back to their typical, 2-shell zone safety look, and just let the front four just rush naturally. Then I think that's probably better for them because then Jaden Daniels won't exploit that as much. Yeah,
they were blitzing against Washington. It wasn't the number because they don't blitz often. Although that game they blitz probably more often than they usually do. It was more the fact that when they were blitzing, it was just dumb. They didn't work but it was dumb plays where it was a big down. It might have been third down or fourth down. And it's like, Daniels is going to get the ball out early anyway. And if you blitz him, it's just going to come out early. So dumb. I remember those plays and they were dumb. Yeah, Eagles got to be patient more on defense. Control Daniels' ability to run. It seems like every quarterback, they played two quarterbacks in the playoffs so far who don't run. And then Love ran a little bit more than he usually does. Stafford ran the ball 3 times this year, and then he ran one for 10 yards against us on Sunday. The Eagles need a spy, but yeah, they just have to play their football that they have defensively all year, essentially. Making tackles, turning the ball over, getting to the other team quickly when they have the ball, tight coverage, get to the quarterback, apply pressure. Yeah.
And I'll say this too. We haven't even mentioned this, but it's kind of crazy. The Commanders lost their best offensive lineman to an ACL, Sam Cosmi, in last week's game. So that's kind of huge.
He's a player too. Best player on their offensive line. He has contained Jalen Carter decently well within the last year and this year. So, yeah, that's a big loss in so many ways. Cosby's a good guard. And if you're Washington, you're probably going to try to double team Jalen Carter, but you'd feel a lot better doing so with Cosby. So, good point you made there, Sean. Yeah, that's what was it? ACL.
ACL, yeah, which is just awful. Especially, you made it this far.
I mean, fortunately, and not trying to make light of the situation with ACLs these days, I would assume that he'd be back by at least the beginning of the year, not miss any time for next season. But yeah, that's terrible. That stinks.
Yeah, it's rough because we really need this Commanders a lot against the dominant Eagles D line, especially like we said. If they just get pressure naturally instead of doing crazy blitzes, like it'd be patient, which they're gonna have an easier time doing with.
I love how you turned this into guys.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm listen. Jaden Daniels was my guy. It's so funny. I mean, not that it makes a difference. Like I was texting my Giants friend because last year around when Tommy DeVito became our starter and we thought we were going to be picking top 3. I was like, Jaden Daniels. And some people, no, Marvin Harrison. If we can't get Caleb, it's Marvin Harrison. It's like, yeah, look at it now. Like, look at us now, And there was a lot of people who are like, no, Drake May is better than Jaden Daniels. Drake May looks great. Jaden Daniels looks like the best player in this whole class. So, and you can argue, like you said, how, players decline, but the way he's operating, the poise, his ability on the ground, and his passing, like that deep pass to De'Ami Brown was crazy. And he's passing to De'Ami Brown too and putting it on the fucking money. And he's not like, who's this no name who hasn't produced in the past, 2-3 years in the NFL. No, he has trust in his guys. And it's not like, I don't think De'Ami Brown is going to be like his number 2 going forward behind Terry McLaurin. Like he rotates it between Jamison Crowder and Zacchaeus and Noah Brown, is Noah Brown out or something? I just haven't even seen him in the.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel like we're probably missed an injury somewhere. But yeah, guys like that. No.
I mean, this is I think the point you're trying to make too, and I would agree. This is a young quarterback, obviously, and a young team in general that doesn't know any better. And they don't know, they're here to win. They're here now. They don't know how hard it is to win in the NFL, and what it takes. So they're just on this run, and they don't know any better from it. Might as well try to finish it off for them. So, yeah, that's where they are. I guess.
Yeah, I'm an idiot, dude. Noah Brown, week 13, ruptured his spleen. Noah Brown, week 13, ruptured his spleen.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Season ending. It's freaking
I would think so.
Yeah. I don't know. Predictions for this game so we can wrap this up. I feel like it's been a long one. But After this game, I mean, we're going to know which NFC East team is going to the Super Bowl, which is nuts.
Yeah.
I'll give you mine first, Jeremy. I'm going to go Commanders 31, Eagles 28.
Okay.
High scoring, bouncy over, Commanders win.
Okay. I'm going to go 33-21 Eagles.
Okay, damn.
I think
Double
they
the spread.
are. I think they're just a better team. I think it comes down to just who's a better team, who has better players, who has more stars. It's in Philadelphia. This environment's going to be crazy. Eagles are just a better team, and I'm going to go with that. Score-wise, it's tough. It really is tough because maybe the offense for the Eagles isn't as good, but then the defense is. So I'm not really sure. But, yeah, I'll take it Eagles.
Yeah. Shocker. But, yeah, I mean, that's anything else you want to say before we wrap things up here, Jeremy?
No, not really.
Yeah, me neither. Oh, I will say this. We are not wearing red because Ohio State won the college football championship. This was just ironic. Temple Reds. Ironic Temple Reds. I mean, Ohio State did win me a little bit of money, but I don't really care about the Buckeyes.
Big win for the Owls last week against Memphis for hoops. And we're, cherry red. Love that.
Cherry red, baby. Cherry red. Hoot, hoot. Mother fricker. But yeah, it is crazy, though. Ohio State won the first 4-team college football playoff and then the first
12-team. Oh, yes. I guess you're right.
They did the first 4-team and the first 12-team.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Well, I know we're wrapping it up, but they have to get seedings better because Ohio State was not what were they, a 7 seed?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, that's Tennessee week.
Just out of those teams, they were not a 7 seed. But and that's how that's how Ohio State wins these kind of things because they're so misseeded that they play teams like Oregon in the second round, even though Oregon's a good team.
Oregon was number 1 though.
They have to go, but Ohio State should have been top 14. They should have played them in the semis or championship ultimately. So yeah, I'm sure. There's always room to talk about it, but I'll conclude with Go Birds.
And I'll conclude with Giants fans, hang in there. Oh, yeah, and we fired Jerome Henderson, if anybody cares. That's
right. There you go.
Coach. Anyways, stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully Jeremy will be crying because his Birds are on the way home and the Commanders are on the way to the Super Bowl. Peace.